Hello, Carlos. We were told Ruth was going to be doing interpretation today. Is that still the thing?
Ruth will be interpreting the next meeting, as far as I know. Let me check the calendar. Yeah, for the Public Safety Committee meeting at 1.
Got it. Thank you. All right, Carlos. Looks like I assigned you. Can you confirm?
Yes, it's all set. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hello, Phil.
Daniel, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. We hear you, see you. Just a quick reminder, we had somebody come in very early into the meeting. His name is Josh, and he was kind of commenting. So I closed the chat. I didn't have a chance to close it earlier, but it's closed now. But yeah, just keep in mind, there's somebody, his name is Josh. I already told Francesca as well.
And he's been moved from panelist back to, let's see.
We never promoted him, but since the chat was open to attendees at first, since I didn't close it.
Okay.
5 minutes, he commented some rude stuff. Just keep in mind.
Okay. Were we able to delete that, or like, will you reopen the chat just for panelists at some point and delete the previous?
Yeah, I'll reopen it for just panelists.
Okay. Great. Okay. Hey, sorry about that, but thank you for navigating that part. Really appreciate it. So quick little rundown too, and I'll do some mic checks. Guys, see, did you already check Carlos on the mic check?
Yes, I did. He's assigned.
Okay. Thanks for joining early, Carlos. Really appreciate it. So a couple things too, and it was in the chat thread. We're going to pull item 5. So Alex is going to join shortly on that. And if you can give me like promotion responsibilities too, I can help navigate those kind of things, especially if we need extra speakers coming from panelists. I know we have like some City of Carlsbad folks that will be kind of waiting in the wings, et cetera. So, but item 5 will be pulled. We may get, potentially item 4 pulled, who knows, but definitely 5 is like worked with staff to do that. So the chair will be requesting it, but only pull it up once the chair requests it. And then item 6 is Alex Estrella. He will be running the PowerPoint because that's the one that the chair will be giving, and kind of he knows where he's like, really closely connected to the speaking points. So if you could just, don't feel like you need to share item 6, but then once he's done, you will run the PowerPoint show for items 7 and 8.
Perfect. Just to confirm, we're pulling item 5.
Yeah, let me just double check the numbers.
Okay.
I want to triple check here. So
Yeah, I have item
Yeah.
7 and 8 ready to go. So
yeah, so item 5, yeah, correct. Item 5, and that should be in there. Let me know if it's not. That's a Sandag staff. That's Jenny Russo and Benjamin Gembler. So they'll both need to be promoted. But yeah, it's item 5. That there is a PowerPoint there.
got it. Thank you.
And you will run that one. So you'll run 5. Alex will run 6, and then you'll run 7 and 8.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks again for doing this, for filling in for Kendall. Doing a great job.
I'm trying. She's very good at what she does.
Yeah, she's awesome. Okay, I'm just scanning. Let's see on panelists. Alex should be on shortly. Okay. All right, we'll just hang here. And I can help do the audio checks with members as they come in, assuming they come in, somewhat before the meeting. Sometimes if it's right before, we don't catch them all, but try to do that when I can. So.
Yeah, I'll help out as well. So.
Okay.
And I just want to confirm, I'm not sure if I maybe missed it. Did we say we are pulling item 5 or we're still?
Yes, so the chair, we've asked the chair to pull item 5 and she will do that. It's not, it's not in the agenda as a report. So once the chair says now onto the consent calendar, she will say, I would like to pull item 5. And that's when you will share item 5 PowerPoint.
Okay.
And we will have Jenny Russo and we'll need Jenny Russo and Benjamin Gembler to have panel access.
Got it.
Cool. And Tracy, I see you're on. So Tracy is part of item 4. We did have a lot of conversation with that at What I Talk. So somebody may pull that too. Just kind of getting ready for that. So Tracy, can we check I see you. Can we check your mic too?
Yeah, I just wanted to, can you hear me? Because I'm on an older computer at home. So I also want to try to download a filter real quick.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah. And if you can, monitor, we got to just make sure that your Carlsbad folks are panelists, just in case.
Okay.
Questions. So if you can,
I'll put something in the chat if I see them and they're not promoted.
Yeah. And with outside presenters, we don't put them in the chat, right. Or in the
right away. Right. Just in case, just if it's pulled.
Yeah. Whatever side channel, but let's make sure they're kind of ready to be promoted or just pre-promoted. And then we can kind of just have them as part of the meeting. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah. It's kind of wild card. I'm not sure about, it's one of those like 50-50, right? So yeah, thanks.
And Phil, this is Alex. I'm on now.
Hey, Alex. Great. Okay. Hey, Daniel, Alex, let's do a little check, right, of Alex sharing. So if he can get share privileges, if you can add that. Let's see I don't know if you want to do that, Daniel, but
yeah, I'll give him privileges. Give me 1 second.
Okay. And Alex, if you could download that PowerPoint on your local drive, it's always a little more stable. Share from that, and the speaking points, right? So if she follows the script, I think it's we'll start with 1, and right as she goes to I think it's slides 4 and 5. But I just trust that you'll do that. I would even hide those ones that she's not going to do because it seems like the short version kind of stuff. Yeah.
All right, should be good to share now.
All right, I'm going to try sharing my screen.
Okay. Thanks.
Can you see it now?
Yep, that's great.
And then I just got to go presentation mode, right, Daniel?
Mm-hmm. So right as she's like, I'm going to pull this, start getting it up, and she'll start talking. You'll be at this stage. You'll hit, the presentation. Hopefully that'll be, fairly quick.
So I have this weird dual screen, guys. Are you seeing slide number 1?
Yeah, but we're not seeing in presentation view.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah. So if you go to your display settings, you could do the mirror, I think, like show 1 and 2 as the same thing. And we can get IT down there too. They're really responsive.
I hear you. The mirror settings in my desktop on my laptop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So try that. Maybe do that. It's like display. You scroll down and it's just like show the same thing on screens 1 and 2. Click that. Say approve. Unshare the PowerPoint and then reshare and see if that corrects it. And we still got a little time, so maybe while you're doing that, I see Alan Kossip has joined from Caltrans, good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds good. A little echo, a little slight echo, but it's good. I think it's good.
Okay.
And it's crystal clear on the video too. And just to be clear on your PowerPoint, we will run that. So if you can just say, instead of next slide, next click, because there's a lot of animations, but Daniel Diaz on our staff here will be running the PowerPoint for you.
Okay, so I just say, you want me to say next, just next?
Just next, yeah, if that works for you, Daniel. Yeah.
Next slide, next. Any of those work.
All right, sounds good.
Great. Okay, yeah, thanks for joining, Alan. Appreciate it.
Is it showing the same thing?
So I'm seeing a notes viewer now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So PowerPoint has an option where you can remove that view. That way it doesn't pop up on you. If you want to exit out of that, just hit it. If you hit escape, it'll go out. There you go. Okay, so go to slideshow at the top tab right there where it says slideshow. To the right, there you go. Where it says use presenter view, go ahead and uncheck that.
Presenter's view.
To your right, where
It's
keep
like
going,
a checkbox.
keep going.
Almost there. There we go.
Uncheck that. Okay, now go back to presenter view again. There you go. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, sorry. And you should be good.
Is that it?
So yeah, now do slideshow
Yeah, go to
from
this.
there.
Yeah, now click it again. There
Like
you
your
go.
typical.
Were you able to click that? I'm not sure if you clicked it.
I did. I'll
Yeah.
click it here too.
Yeah. Do you see it on yours as presentation view? We still see the one that still has the slide stack on the left side.
Got it.
Try to do like start PowerPoint.
Or you could do from beginning too on the top left.
Bear with me. How's that?
There we go. Yeah.
You got it.
That worked. All right. Third time's a charm. Okay. So we'll trust that. Yeah. If you want to just hide it, just knowing that she'll get
Perfect.
those two. So, okay. You can unshare. I think we're good there.
Did you do that or do I need to do the unshare? I can't see the top
Yeah.
menu.
It's in the share screen. Oh, you can't. Okay.
I can override you, so it's fine. But usually you'll see the floating toolbar.
Yeah, it's weird. It was at the bottom. Got it.
Okay. All right. I think we're good. You feel we're good, Daniel?
Yeah, if you're having any issues, I'll just jump in. I can share mine as well. I have the deck.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And mostly, I guess, as our default, mostly it's that slide with the chart, like the chart embedded, where it has like the board of directors at the top. If nothing else, that could be like the entirety of her speaking. I mean, Alex is like a way plan B thing. But yeah, hopefully that looks like that works though. We good with that, Alex?
I'm sorry, was that Phil?
So yeah, you'll run it, but if somehow it just snags, Daniel will run it and he can just, kind of go to that chart slide as a default.
Perfect.
Which is what is that, slide 5, 4?
It is going to be slide number 4.
4. Okay, cool. All right. Thanks, Alex. Thanks for doing that. I see we have some other presenters coming in. Benjamin. And do you go by Ben or Benjamin?
Ben's fine.
Ben. Okay, great. Hey, Ben. I don't think we've met.
Morning.
So
are you
nice
guys?
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So yeah, so we're pulling this. I already shared with Daniel that we'll be pulling, the chair will be requesting to pull item 5. So yeah, if you and Jenny will be ready, and then Daniel Diaz in production will be running the PowerPoint. So
Great.
we'll be good. Just do, if it's you or Jenny, just say next slide, and that's kind of
Yeah, and I'll actually be basically doing the whole presentation, and then like Jenny and I will be tag teaming if there are questions or the like.
Okay. Yeah. And we'll do Jenny's camera when she gets on there too. So
Okay,
Great. Okay, thanks.
thank you.
Moving on to MTS. I'm guessing that's Samantha and Lenny. You guys both on the same computer. It says MTS on our.
Good morning, this is MTS.
Great. Is that you, Samantha?
Can you hear us well?
Yeah. Yeah. Can we try your video?
Great. Yes.
Oh, there we go. Good morning. Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Say maybe a couple more things. I want to make sure it's a slight echo, but it could be on my side here. So.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, maybe get the microphone a little closer.
Yeah. Okay, how does that sound?
That's better. Yeah. Okay. Great. And we will run the slideshow for you. So just say next slide or next click, and we'll take care of that. So.
Okay. Great.
And we made those corrections have been made to the PowerPoint, so I think we're all good to go.
Okay.
Okay, I'll keep doing some mic checks. I see we have some more members joining. Mayor Hall, can we check your audio and video when you have a moment?
Good morning.
Good morning. We can hear you and see you. Great background. I love that Carlsbad beach scene. Thanks for doing that, Mayor. All right, let's see. Sharon Cooney from MTS, do you want to try your microphone? She stepped away. And Councilmember Sankey, I see you've joined. Can we check your audio and video? It's still logging in there. Okay. We'll come back to Councilmember Sankey.
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Yeah, my desktop's not working, so I'm on my iPad. So thanks.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's crystal clear though. Yeah. Thanks, Councilmember. Okay.
With technology, it's always something.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll get you all in person here in somewhat short order. So, but yeah, thanks for joining.
Is board meeting in person now?
It's a hybrid, I think. And I don't know if Daniel want to clarify, but yes, I think we did that the last executive committee on the 11th, and then next Friday will be hybrid as well.
Oh, hybrid. Okay, good. We've been doing that at MTS for quite a while, so that's
cool.
good.
Okay.
All right.
And Ray,
Thanks,
Major. Oh yeah, no problem, Councilmember.
Hey,
Thanks for
Phil,
coming over.
can you hear Sharon?
Yes, we can hear you,
Okay.
Sharon. Thank you.
Okay.
See you too. So thank you for doing that.
Did you want me to? This
Yeah,
is
Ray. Yeah, and I see that you'll be giving the agency update. So I'm going to start a thread with the supervisor and let her know right now. So
Sounds great. Thank you.
yeah, we can hear you and see you crystal clear.
Good.
And Daniel, similar to what we do with Kendall, we're about 6 minutes out. So I'll do a kind of a mic check for everyone and just let everyone know we're 1 or 2 minutes out. And then I'll ask you if you're live at 9. And once you confirm, that'll be the cue for the supervisor to start the meeting.
Got it. Thank you.
And Supervisor Vargas, I think you have joined. Can we check your audio and video if you're able?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, and you're crystal clear and we could see you too. So thanks for doing that. And we'll let you know when the meeting's live. We're about 5 minutes out.
Thank you.
Hey, Carlos, just want to confirm you have interpretation on your end?
My apologies. Yes, I am all set to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carlos. And thanks, Daniel. And thanks for doing all those promotions. I see folks coming in and members coming in. Mayor Voss, I see you've joined. I want to check your audio and video if you're able.
Audio check.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Morning, Steve. Good to hear your voice. Bill Sankey here.
Hey, Bill, good to hear your voice as well.
And Commissioner Naranjo, see you've joined. Can we check your audio and video?
Good morning, I'm here.
Great. Good morning. Yeah, it's loud and clear. Thank you.
Hi, this is Councilmember Mendoza.
Good morning, council member. Yeah, we can hear you and see you. Thanks for doing that check. Sorry, I didn't see you on the list. I'm just scrolling here.
No problem.
Oh, and there's a hand up here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Let's see. I see. Joanna Scivone will make sure you're coming over to panelist.
Anderson checking in.
Supervisor Anderson, good morning. Thanks for doing that.
Morning.
Yeah,
Thanks.
loud and clear.
Awesome.
Joel, is that an Air Force hat you have on there?
It is, as a matter of fact. My daughter graduated from the academy, so I'm a proud dad.
Outstanding. Go Falcons.
That's right.
Joanna Scivone is here checking in.
Good morning. Yeah,
Good morning.
sorry for the delay in promoting you. Yeah, it's loud and clear. Thank you for doing that.
Thanks.
Okay, and we're at about a minute out, I believe. Francesca, can you confirm we have a quorum?
We do have a quorum. Thanks, Bill.
Great. Okay, we are almost set here. So yeah, I think about 30 seconds out. I love when we all have the same computer clocks. Makes it easy. All right, Daniel, let us know when we are live.
You're good to go.
Great. Supervisor Vargas, we are live.
Good morning. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Good morning and welcome to the March 18th Transportation Committee. Before we get started, I want to share that we will be hosting simultaneous interpretation of this meeting into Spanish. I wanted to introduce our translator with Spanish language instructions. I'm going to have Carlos provide the instructions.
Good morning and thank you, Chair. I will begin with the instructions in Spanish and I will be back with the instructions in English. Muy buenos días. Se está ofreciendo servicio de interpretación simultánea. Si nos está acompañando en persona y necesita interpretación al español, por favor diríjase a la recepción del piso 7 y solicite un receptor. El receptor parece un pequeño iPod y se puede usar para escuchar la reunión en español. Simplemente sostenga el auricular junto a su oído y la interpretación comenzará automáticamente. Si nos acompaña vía Zoom, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen sus controles, haga clic en el icono de interpretación, parece un globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, utilice los puntos suspensivos o más, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Good morning once again. Interpretation is being provided to and from Spanish rather. If you are joining us today in person and need interpretation into English, please check out a headset from the receptionist on the 7th floor. The headset looks like a little iPod and comes with an earpiece which you can use to hear the meeting in Spanish. In English, simply hold the earpiece to your ear and the interpreter will come on automatically. If you are joining us via Zoom, please scroll down to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are, click on the interpretation icon, it looks like a little world, and then select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, or other mobile device, first press More, the 3 dots, then Interpretation, and then choose your language. Thank you, and gracias, Chair.
Muchas gracias. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to ask our clerk, Ms. Francesca Webb, to confirm that we have a quorum. Ms. Webb?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a quorum.
Wonderful. I'd like to remind the members of the public about our process for board members and public comments. The primary members will be using their cameras and we'll be making public comments. Members are asked to turn on their cameras when they have a comment or question, and then I will recognize you. I'm going to ask our legal counsel, Ms. Amberlynn Deaton, to provide a quick reminder of how the public comments will work. Ms. Deaton?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. As noted on the cover page of the meeting agenda, the public may provide live comments during today's meeting. When public comments are called for on an item, please click on the raise hand icon on the top right of the screen. The clerk will then call on you by the name that you have provided. If you're participating by telephone today, please press *9, which will raise your hand to indicate your desire to speak. The clerk will call on you by the last 3 digits of your telephone number. The instructions for providing live comments are also on the bottom of the cover page of today's meeting agenda, which can be located at www.sandag.org. All comments, whether they were emailed in advance or made live today, will be made part of today's meeting record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 1 is public comments. I'm going to ask members of the public who wish to offer public comment not related to a matter on today's agenda to please raise your hand at this time so we can call on you. I think there's 2 members of the public. Ms. Webb?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, our first speaker will be Alex Wong, who will be followed by Catherine Rhodes. Alex, you're self-muted. You can go ahead when you're ready.
Yes, so this is Alex Wong, and I would like to comment on the airport trolley connectivity. And I've read the MTS airport trolley connectivity, and I believe MTS is the wrong approach. While I agree that the airport is overdue for rail transit, I believe an automated people mover is superior to an airport trolley. The presentation in MTS's airport trolley feasibility study promotes convenient access to downtown. But Sandag's airport connectivity analysis says an airport trolley will likely only run every 15 minutes. And that's especially inconvenient when travel time from the airport to the convention center would only be 14 minutes. If someone is leaving convention center station to go to the airport and they miss the train, they're probably not waiting 15 minutes for the next trolley. They're in a hurry to catch the flight. They will call a rideshare, which will arrive in 2 minutes and take them to the airport in 12 minutes before the next airport-bound trolley even arrives at convention center station. That's why I strongly support building a people mover from the airport to Middletown trolley station. I also support Sandag's plan to increase all trolley frequencies to 7.5 minutes. With a people mover with 2-minute frequencies and with the blue and green line each serving Middletown with 7.5-minute frequencies for a combined frequency of 3.75 minutes, and allowing around 1 minute to transfer between the people mover and the trolley, passengers between airport and downtown would then have a maximum wait time of only 7 minutes rather than 15 minutes as with an airport trolley. Even if combined wait times and in-vehicle travel times for both an airport trolley and a people mover option were comparable, passengers would still prefer the people mover option's higher frequencies because a minute spent waiting for a train feels longer than a minute spent traveling on board the train. The trolley in their report is also touted as being not dependent on mobility hub planning and implementation, but a people mover linking the airport with Middletown Station could also be built before mobility hub plans are finalized. The Port of San Diego has offered their headquarters located right next to Middletown to Sandag to build a central mobility hub. Sandag should accept this offer and build a transit center on a port headquarters. The transit center need not be $2.4 billion. However, it can be built very quickly and inexpensively. It simply needs to be a people mover station with pedestrian tunnel, escalators, elevators, moving walkways to allow passengers to quickly transfer to the trolley. Sandag can later then finalize the central mobility hub location and, given demand, extend the people mover to the central mobility hub. Finally, the report promotes the ability to extend the trolley to the west, but it would be even easier to expand the people mover to destinations like Liberty Station and the sports arena. People movers aren't just used in airports. Tokyo's Eureka Momi line, the light rail transit in Macau and Singapore, they all use people movers outside the airport to serve dense urban neighborhoods. Better yet, building an underground people mover is cheaper than building an underground trolley because people mover trains are shorter in length than trolley trains, which means people mover stations are also shorter in length and therefore smaller and cheaper to build than trolley stations. Cheaper stations are the key to cutting underground rail construction costs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next speaker will be Catherine Rhodes. Catherine, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And I very much agree with the first caller, except of course, I think the people mover could be actually put underground very easily using, slurry walls. What I wanted to talk to you about is that great news. President Biden on March 1st extended the hotel rooms for homeless people who are prone to COVID so that they could be put into hotels for an additional 3 months. The program was going to end on April 1st, 2022, but it got extended 3 additional months until July 1st, 2022. And it will probably be extended indefinitely until COVID-19 is over. So this would be a perfect opportunity for Sandag staff to contact county staff and create their own Project Room Key hotel rooms for homeless people who, who are prone to COVID. And the other people who have first priority for these or who have the ability to be in these hotel rooms also are anybody who has drug or alcohol abuse or has mental illness. So this could be an opportunity for Sandag to put, let's say, 1,000 people into hotel rooms. So what will that do for, let's say, the city of San Diego or any of the government agencies? First of all, your transit occupancy tax money revenue coming into the city will increase. You know, right now, the city and everybody has lost money during COVID because of all the empty hotel rooms. This is an opportunity for you to have revenue coming back into your cities only if you want it, only if you take the opportunity to get this money. And so my request is that Sandag, especially through their housing, supportive housing initiatives, to have talks with the County Office of Emergency Services. These are the people who get, who are in charge of submitting the paperwork for the free money for the hotel rooms. And why I call this free money is because this is money that the state of California and all taxpayers in the city of San Diego sends to the federal government. And we don't get the money, we don't get the same money back from the federal government. A lot of the money goes to other states. So this is just getting the money to come back into San Diego. And we could get, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars coming into San Diego if only we had leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and Chair, that concludes the public commenters.
Okay, do we have any members of the board that would like to speak? The committee. Oh, we have one. Councilmember Zito.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I wanted to point out on February 26th, tragedy struck once again in Solana Beach when a cyclist was killed riding along 101. This is the second bicycle fatality in Solana Beach in less than 9 months. I've lived in Solana Beach for 30 years, and these are the only 2 cycling fatalities that I'm able to recall in that time frame. I wanted to bring this up to note that both of these incidents occurred on 101, a stretch of road in Solana Beach that has an award-winning Class 1 protected facility along its entire length. Both of these riders chose not to use that facility and rode with traffic, likely because of wanting to ride fast. I applaud Sandag and the leadership for keeping continued focus on the urgent need to reduce the significant increase in bicycle fatalities. Maintaining this focus is critically important. These recent incidents, however, point out that the absolute need to focus on all aspects of rider safety, including training, awareness, and making sure that we do what we can to ensure that the riding in the streets with traffic is as safe as we can make it as well. Protected bike lanes have their place and are a great tool, but they are clearly not a panacea. This most recent death was an older gentleman riding an e-bike for the first time and losing control of the bike while attempting to make a passing maneuver. As e-bikes have become more prevalent, introducing much higher average speeds for inexperienced riders, strategies beyond just protected bike lanes will be increase in importance. I look forward to continued collaboration with Sandag to eliminate bicycle fatalities through implementation of all of our possible strategies. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I'm really sorry to hear. Any other comments from any other members? Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. We're going to go ahead and move and pull item number 5, access for all grant programs, cycle 1 COP for projects from the agenda. But any other items from the agenda that any other members would like to pull?
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to know we haven't done the agency report yet.
Oh my gosh, I apologize for that. I missed it. Let's go ahead and do the agency report. I apologize.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'm happy to join you here today to provide you with the agency update. First up, I would like to invite all of you to join us for the grand opening of the Georgia Mead Bikeway tomorrow, Saturday, May 19th. We will be celebrating with a ribbon cutting ceremony and a self-guided bike ride at 10 a.m. at Garfield Elementary School in the city of San Diego. This 3.5-mile bikeway is a critical part of the San Diego Regional Bikeway Network, and its opening is just in time for the Bike to Work Day on May 19th. Registration is now open for those who want to participate in this annual event, and we hope to see everybody out there. This week, we are thrilled to welcome the California Transportation Commission to the San Diego region. We had the opportunity to discuss some of our region's most pressing priorities, including the future of the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. And we are thankful for our continued partnership with the CTC to make this project a reality, making it easier for people to access jobs, healthcare, and family across the border. This month, we will begin outreach for our Youth Opportunity Pass pilot program, which we expect to start in May with partnership with MTS and NCTD. And a big thank you to you, Supervisor Vargas, for your support of the project. And we are grateful for the funding the county has contributed, which will allow us to extend this pilot for 2 additional months. We want to get the word out to as many people as soon as possible, and we hope that we can tap into all of you to champion this amazing new opportunity for those 18 and under throughout the region. And we'll be following up with more information on this in the coming weeks. We're also kicking off our Get Connected campaign to support our digital equity strategy in the coming months. So please stay tuned for how you can help with that. Chair Vargas, this concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I apologize for missing you when you were going to give such a wonderful update, especially about the about the no-cost transit passes. So I thank you for that, and I'm excited about that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. All right, so now we're going to move on to, are there any public comments on that item? Any member comments on that item? All right, seeing none. We're going to go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. I'm going to go ahead and pull item number 5, which is the Access for All Grant Program Cycle 1 Call for Projects. Other than that, are there any other items that many members of the committee would like to pull?
Chair Vargas, if this is Vivian, if we could pull item number 4, please.
You got it. Any other items? All right, so we have one item to approve. Let's see.
I'll move approval of the one item.
All right, is there a second?
Second, Sankey.
Can we go ahead and call the vote?
Thank you, Chair. For the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Joanna Schiavone.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Campillo.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Yes.
For East County, Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
For Metropolitan Transit System, Councilmember Moreno.
Moreno, yes.
For North County Coastal, Councilmember Zito.
Zito, yes.
For North County Inland, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
For North County, North County Transit District is absent. For the Port of San Diego, Commissioner Naranjo.
Yes.
And for South County, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you very much. And that item does pass unanimously with those members present.
All right, so item number 4, we'll have the Transnet, the Transportation Committee was asked to approve the 36-month schedule extension for the City of Carlsbad Boulevard for Tarmac Pedestrian Improvement Action Transportation Grant. Is there a motion to approve? And then I'll do a motion in a second, and then we can have discussion if that's okay with you. Yeah.
Zito will move to approve.
Is there a second? Need a second for discussion.
I'll happily second again. Oh, Raul, you got it.
Thank you. All right, go ahead. Discussion. Councilmember Moreno.
Yeah, thank you for pulling this. The staff report says that this is the second 36-month extension granted to the City of Carlsbad, excuse me, for the construction of a roundabout and signal improvement at the intersection of Carlsbad Boulevard and Tamarack. So after 3 years of design work, the staff reported that the project hasn't achieved the 60% design milestone yet, but we're offering them another 3 years, which I'm supportive of, just to lay that out. But what I was concerned with is the letter from the City of Carlsbad dated March 1st explains that some of the delays was due to difficulties in dealing with state parks to determine the right-of-way boundaries. But some of it was due to extensive public outreach. And one of my questions is, what was the main source of delay? Was it mostly because of extensive public outreach or mostly because of issues surrounding the right-of-way?
Okay, so they've experienced many delays, including the right-of-ways, as you mentioned. but they have had extensive public outreach that exceeded their time that they put in the original scope, schedule, and budget. So it was unforeseen. So basically, they had three concepts in the beginning of their project of how they were going to do the road diet on that intersection and and move the intersection. They had to make it more safe for transit. They have a bus stop on that one of those that intersection, and also for it's a major along the coast walking with strollers and everything. So they're extending the sidewalk out a little bit. So anyways, they had three different concepts of how they were going to rearrange the intersection. And well, I do have city staff members here to kind of jump in on this, but I think they went the public outreach timeframe was extended because they went back from alternatives to different alternatives, and it just went a little bit longer than they thought. So, and then they had these additional delays. And so I do have city staff from Carlsbad, Lauren Farrell and Husan, and I think they're on as a panelist. Is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning.
Thank you. So my question is, and this is for Sandag staff, was the extensive public outreach, I'm assuming it was offered by the city of Carlsbad, was it different than than the sort of outreach usually conducted by active transportation grant recipients? And if
No,
so, it was the same?
Yeah, it was the same throughout. Just in my experience going to some of the public outreach events for the projects that the Active Transportation Grant Program funds, yeah, basically it was the same.
Okay, and how will Sandag staff ensure that Carlsbad makes adequate progress after receiving the second 3-year extension?
Well, as I put in the report, there is basically staff is recommending that we have the city of Carlsbad spend their match first until they do get that 60% deliverable engineering.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I'm willing to support this today based upon the assurance from staff, but I think these delays are unacceptable, and we have to demand that our grant recipients use transit money more efficiently. Thank you, and I will be voting yes, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hall.
Yes, and I'd like to thank everyone, including Vivian, for her comments. One of the things that I think we all experienced today is who we are and what we do has become a lot more complicated. And especially when you put in the outreach to the community. And this particular intersection isn't a normal intersection. It's not a right angle intersection, and it's just the complexity is extreme. And you couple that with other state agencies that you have to get their okay on a lot of the documentation and engineering, because it's not all our right of way that we're trying to move into. And you complicate that, what our speaker said earlier. I mean, we track through this intersection summertime over 2,500 cyclists a day. So it's just one thing on top of another, and we're taking extreme caution when it comes to safety. And it's also it's a main way for people from walking from the neighborhood down onto the coastline. So I appreciate Sandag, I appreciate everyone and their support, and I will ensure you we would like to get this thing built as quick as possible. So.
Councilmember Campillo.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I also support this item. I share the same concerns as my colleague from District 8. I guess one of the questions I have is, as we go through the Active Transportation Grant Program and we see what municipalities put forward programs for us to fund, knowing the complexity of them, it seems to me that as Mayor Hall points out, this is a very complicated spot. I personally love this spot. I know how important it is to Carlsbad and really the north part of our county. So that's why I'm going to continue to extend this. I just wonder, do we not, as Sandag, anticipate that complicated processes for particular spots is part of the scheduling? Because it seems to me that this could have been foreseen as needing more than just the initial amount of time. I'm just wondering what the staff oversight at the very beginning is, so that the timeline is realistic and we don't have to continue to give extensions to projects.
Absolutely. Thank you for that's an excellent question. We do in our one of our categories when we are scoring projects, we do have a project readiness category. And at the time when Carlsbad was scored, they were pretty much they were shovel ready because they did do their public outreach ahead, and they had this, like I said, they had 3 concepts, so they were going to do either one, and they had an EIR done for either one. So it was project ready. I think that the city of Carlsbad just did not know about the state park that was adjacent, the state park beach owning that little piece of right of way, and they found out a little bit later on into the grant, and that's what caused these delays.
Understood. Okay, I guess in my mind, this particular project makes sense. I guess it's up to us as us to go back to our cities and say that when you're part of this, make sure you check for every easement and every little right of way that might not be within your own jurisdictional control. So totally understand. I appreciate that this really should be the last extension, and appreciate the comments of the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee earlier this month and their recommendations. I'll be voting yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments from any members? Any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Chair. I don't see any hands from the public.
All right, can we go ahead and call the vote, please?
For the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Joanna Schiavone.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Campillo.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Vargas, yes.
For East County, Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
For Metropolitan Transit System, Councilmember Moreno.
Moreno, yes.
For North County Coastal, Councilmember Zito.
Zito, yes.
For North County Inland, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
North County Transit District is absent. For the Port of San Diego, Commissioner Naranjo.
Yes.
And for South County, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you very much. And that item passes unanimously with those members present.
Fantastic. Item number 5, it's Access for All Grant Program Cycle 1 call for projects. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gimbler from Sandag to go ahead and provide a presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the Transportation Committee. My name is Benjamin Gembler, and I am a new member of the Sandag Grants team. I'm excited to be here this morning with my colleague Jenny Russo to share a new grant program with you, the Access for All program, and details on the first call for projects. Next slide, please. So we are all familiar with on-demand transportation or ride-hailing services offered through transportation network companies, TNCs, such as Uber and Lyft. These services are typically offered by a smartphone application, and trips are fulfilled within 24 hours of request. TNCs are regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission, CPUC. Across California, there is a growing need for TNCs to provide equal access to individuals with disabilities, especially wheelchair users who need a wheelchair accessible vehicle, or WAVE. Currently, most WAVE services are only available through specialized transportation providers or through paratransit services, but these services all follow either a fixed route or schedule and are not on demand. Sandag's 2020 Coordinated Plan, the document that establishes a regional strategy to provide transportation to recognize transportation disadvantaged groups, including individuals with disabilities, discusses this disparity and the challenges it has brought to our region. Next slide. To address the lack of accessibility of WAVE services statewide, in 2018, Senate Bill 1376 created the TNC Access for All program. This legislation directed the CPUC to establish a program to improve accessibility of TNC services for individuals with disabilities, especially those requesting waived service. To generate funding for the program, since 2019, TNCs have collected a 10-cent access fee for each completed TNC trip. Those fees are reserved for use by the county in which the TNC trip was made. The fees are used to improve waived services in two ways. First, TNCs can expand or improve waived service within a particular county and then file offset requests with the CPUC, which allows them to keep some of the access fee revenue they collect if they can demonstrate they are improving access to waves on their platforms. Remaining funds not offset by the TNCs are then set aside in an access fund for distribution through local access fund administrators, or LAFAs. Last year, the CPUC selected Sandag as the LAFA for San Diego County for funding year 2021-2022. Sandag is required to distribute the access fund fees through an annual competitive process. Next slide. So you may be familiar with the Sandag Specialized Transportation Grant Program, STGP, that provides similar services. While there isn't some overlap in the STGP and the Access for All program, or AFA, there are some major differences as shown on this slide. First, the STGP consists of two grant programs. The Senior Mini Grant Program is funded through the Transnet Ordinance and provides specialized transportation services for seniors over the age of 55 and individuals with disabilities. The Section 5310 program is funded through the Federal Transit Administration's Section 5310 program and provides transportation services for individuals with disabilities. As mentioned previously, the Access for All program is funded by a 10-cent fee levied against each TNC trip, and those funds are used to provide transportation services for individuals with non-folding wheelchairs. The STGP program provides pre-scheduled services, while the AFA provides trips on demand. Eligible applicants under the STGP are fairly broad, consisting of public agencies and nonprofits. The AFA, however, restricts eligible applicants to any organization that directly provides or contracts with an entity to provide wave service and has either a charter party carrier permit with the CPUC or can meet the requirements of obtaining a permit. Next slide. Consistent with other grant programs, Sandag has conducted various outreach efforts to help develop its AFA program. Staff solicited feedback and input from stakeholders, specialized transportation users, and transit agencies through several means. In February, staff presented an overview of the program at the Council on Access and Mobility, a group of 30 providers and transportation interest groups who promote coordination of transportation resources and services in the county. Also in February, Sandag hosted a specialized transportation workshop attended by more than 40 stakeholders, including local nonprofit agencies, jurisdictions, transit operators, advocates, and riders. Staff also released a survey and has received over 115 comments to date. All of these efforts help to inform the development of the Cycle 1 AFA call for projects. Next slide. So for the development of the Cycle 1 call for projects, we use the STGP as a starting point to develop this new program. Changes were made to reflect CPUC guidelines, and irrelevant portions of the STGP call for projects were removed. Included in the development of the call for projects was the development of program goals, objectives, eligibility, and evaluation criteria. This will help provide the framework for program applicants and a uniform basis for the scoring and ranking of applications. The outreach that we conducted over the last couple of months was incorporated to address the needs, barriers, and challenges facing providers, users, and stakeholders. Next slide. As mentioned previously, the CPUC has provided strict eligibility requirements for this program. Applicants must be able to provide or contract with an entity that provides on-demand wave transportation services in the county. On-demand wave transportation is defined as the provider that can fulfill trip requests for wheelchair users within 24 hours through a service that does not follow a fixed route or schedule. Additionally, applicants must be transportation carriers that hold a CPUC-issued charter party carrier permit, or be a non-permitted transportation carrier that can meet the permit requirements, such as performing background checks and controlled substance and alcohol testing on its personnel, and have appropriate insurance, Secretary of State registration, and a motor carrier profile with a California Highway Patrol. Next slide. The AFA evaluation criteria contains some components of the STGP evaluation criteria. Additional criteria were added to address safety, operational and implementation strategies, and innovative approaches that could be used in on-demand wave services. As shown on the slide, the criteria have different point values, and the highest weighted criteria relate to coordination and program outreach, as well as the applicant's operations and implementation of services. Next slide. So here is a timeline that illustrates the upcoming activities of the Cycle 1 AFA call for projects. Next week, staff will present the program to the Social Equity Working Group and Board of Directors. If approved by the board, the call for projects will be released on March 28th, and applicants will have 90 days to submit their applications. Applicants' applications will be scored and ranked in July and in August, and funding recommendations will be brought to the Transportation Committee and Board in September. Grant agreements with awarded applicants will follow in October, and wave services must begin within 30 days. This program will be added to the quarterly status report, so you will be apprised of the program's status and progress on a regular basis. Additionally, staff will submit quarterly progress reports to the CPUC that demonstrate the provider's ability to maintain compliance with the CPUC's performance measures. Next slide. So the recommendation before you today is the Transportation Committee is asked to recommend that the Board of Directors approve the Cycle 1 Access for All program eligibility and evaluation criteria. So this concludes my report, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Chair. We do have a few members of the public with their hand up. Looks like 4 as of right now. The first will be Catherine Rhodes, who will be followed by Lily Arani. Catherine, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely. Thank you so much. This is Catherine Rhodes, and this is wonderful. I'm very supportive of this. One thing I just kind of wanted people to know, I've just got this from a San Diego Union Tribune article. You know, countywide, they say 10% of people have disabilities. However, when you're homeless, that increases dramatically. 58% of the homeless population say they have a disability. When you go and look at people who are homeless, let's say in downtown San Diego, you see so many people in wheelchairs that can't stand. They don't have access to get anywhere. And so what I want to make sure is that the providers who are going to be providing the rides, if it can be done just with a phone call or going on the computer and asking for a ride, not that they only have a smartphone application. A lot of people who are homeless don't have smartphones, you know, don't have a place to charge up a smartphone, but they could, you know, have somebody make a phone call for them if needed. So, you know, that's one thing to make sure that people can access this just through a phone call or computer, not just a smartphone application. And the other thing is that, you know, what I think this hopefully will be good for is so that there will be less warrants issued for homeless people when they are unable to get up to Kearny Mesa to pay their tickets, when the city of San Diego police give them tickets for encroachment for sleeping on the streets. And so I'm hoping this program will be able to be used by homeless people for a car ride up to Kearny Mesa and then back to wherever they're living, so that they could, you know, make arrangements to pay for their tickets, or if, you know, and so that's all. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker will be Lily Arani, who will be followed by Arun Prem. Lily, you can go ahead.
Hi, I'm really thrilled to see a program like this providing resource for wheelchair accessible vehicles. These are vital to many of my friends who are in wheelchairs and find it incredibly difficult to transport themselves to San Diego. I'm a professor at UCSD, and I'm also on the board of United Taxi Workers San Diego. And my question is, first, do you have a sense of how many providers are you anticipate might even be eligible to apply for this program, given the challenges of 24-hour on-demand availability and also having these kind of charter requirements? And as part of that, Sandag in their equity statement says, we have an obligation to eliminate disparities, ensure that safe, healthy, accessible, and inclusive opportunities are available to everyone. So part of my question is whether the range of providers who you think will be able to meet the requirements of even applying for this call, whether there's enough support to, whether there's enough support to have vendors who are from disadvantaged communities be able to apply. Thank you.
Our next speaker, oh, I'm sorry, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, that we don't really, this is a new program. And so we're going to be seeing, the degree of sort of applicant response, but I appreciate those comments.
Our next speaker will be Arun Prem, who will be followed by Chris Orlando. Arun, you can go ahead whenever you're ready. Arun, you're currently self-muted, so you can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me now?
I can, thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair and the committee. I'm Arun Prem, Executive Director of FACT. FACT is a nonprofit and with a mission to improve mobility in the county, and we are a provider of WAVE services. Sandag designated FACT as the Consolidated Transportation Service Agency under state law to fill gaps in existing services. Speaking of gaps, this morning, just as an illustration, I used the Uber app to book a trip from Sandag to the airport. And when you ask for a WAVE vehicle, the response is, quote, no cars available. So that's not a surprise. That's why this new program, Access for All, was created. But currently, if you don't need a wheelchair accessible vehicle, you can get a ride from Sandag to the airport in less than 3 minutes. But it's important to understand why this is. Wheelchair accessible services are not profitable. They're very expensive to provide, and they're also very difficult to provide because of the requirements and the training sensitivity that goes into it. And that's one of the reasons why there are only just two wheelchair accessible vehicles registered with the Taxi Cab Administration in San Diego. So you can imagine that's in percentage terms non-existent WAVE service right now. So that does not sound right or equitable. Implementing Access for All is a big step in addressing this glaring inequity. FACT has been providing WAVE services for seniors, people with disabilities in all 18 cities, suburbs, and unincorporated areas for 10 years. We purchase accessible vehicles with grants, and we work with the private taxi cab vendors in reaching those who need accessible transportation. FACT created this network of taxi cab services that spans the county and is cost effective. We look forward to working on this grant opportunity to bring equity and access to many more disadvantaged residents in San Diego than we can afford right now. I commend Sandag on the work they've done on Access for All, and I urge you, the committee, to support this important initiative. Thank you.
And our final speaker will be Chris Orlando. Chris, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. I am Chris Orlando
Chief Planning and Communications Officer for North County Transit. I apologize, our representative to the committee was unable to attend this morning, but we did want to just make a couple points on this item. First, want to recommend that the eligible program expenses within the program include reimbursement for eligible trips and administrative expenses that may have been incurred since Sandag was selected as the local Actus Fund administrator in June of 2021, meaning that there are already active programs and the selection of Sandag was made last year. So want to just request that those expenses that may have been incurred since that point be eligible. And then in addition, want to recommend that consideration of future fiscal year program administration is structured similar to the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, the LCTOP, in which applicants submit allocation requests for funding based on eligible ridership and/or population characteristics. Those are the only comments. I thank the chair for the opportunity to make those.
Thank you, and Chair, that concludes the public commenters.
Thank you. Are there any member comments? All right, seeing no member comments, I just want to make sure that as we develop this program, we provide access to our taxi workers to be eligible for this grant program as well. I think it would be really important. Okay. And I know that there was some mention about what we're doing and so on and so forth, but any other member comments at this point? All right, seeing none.
Madam Chair, this is Bill Sankey. Would you accept a motion to approve the staff recommendation?
Yes, sir.
And a second, Campio?
Fantastic. We have a motion and a second. We're going to go ahead and call the roll.
Thank you, Chair. For the San Diego County Regional Airport Authority, Joanna Scavone.
Yes.
For the City of San Diego, Vice Chair Campillo.
Yes.
For the County of San Diego, Chair Vargas.
Vargas, yes.
For East County, Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
For Metropolitan Transit System, Councilmember Moreno.
Moreno, yes.
For North County Coastal, Councilmember Zito.
Zito, yes.
For North County Inland, Mayor Ritter.
Ritter, yes.
For North County Transit District is absent. For the Port of San Diego, Commissioner Naranjo.
Yes.
And for South County, Councilmember Sankey.
Sankey, yes.
Thank you. And that item does pass unanimously with those members present.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is the restructuring of our Sandag working groups. We've done amazing work as a committee. And so we are, the presentation or the information I wanted to present to all of you is that, we know that the working groups are an integral part of the agency because they provide critical input that helps advance major projects. And last month, the executive committee approved restructuring Sandag's working groups based on a recommendation that came from the recommendation came from the agency's organization effectiveness plan completed back in 2019. And so I'm going to provide some slides now. Over the past year, staff conducted a comprehensive assessment of Sandag's working groups, and based on their findings, made a recommendation to reduce the number of formal working groups from 23 to 11. Similar working groups were consolidated into two new working groups, a mobility working group and a sustainable communities working group. You have the draft charters as attachments 2 and 3 to your staff reports. And the recommendation also including the formation of technical task forces on as needed basis to provide technical input to staff and working groups on specific projects and initiatives. Next slide, please. The new mobility working group will report into the Transportation Committee on transportation projects, programs, and policies. There will be one voting member from each member agency, and member agencies can appoint the appropriate staff person to be the representative. The mobility group will be chaired by a non-voting member of this committee who will appoint who I will appoint in the coming months. And the goal really is to have the new working groups fully operational by June, and Sandag staff will be reaching out to agencies for their staff appointments soon. This was an informational item, but if you have any questions, Sandag staff is here to answer any questions. Do we have any questions from the public and or from board members on this item?
I don't see anything. Oh, I'm sorry. I spoke too soon. We do have one member of the public who would like to speak. Catherine Rhodes, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Yes.
Wonderful. This is Catherine Rhodes again. And of course, you know, there's 9 general plan elements: circulation, land use, housing, safety, conservation, noise, environmental justice, open space, and air quality. And I don't totally see these on your attachment 1, that all these are, you know, kind of shown of where they are. And kind of my main question is, where's the things to do with the housing? You know, what is a working group on housing? Where do they belong on this chart? And that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. There's no other public comments on this item.
Thank you.
Chair, if you might, would you like me to respond, Chair? This is Alex Estrella.
It's not necessary, but okay.
Yeah, just to point of clarification, we do have the Sustainable Working Communities Working Group, and what you're seeing today is maybe a high level, but the related discussion topics or the focus areas will be under that group. The housing.
Yeah. Mayor Hall?
Yes. Will this, or how will this affect the CTAC group?
Yes, great question. Both the CTAC and Sandag will be members of this new mobility working group. And we're asking and maintaining the level of, I would say, focus areas that we've had in the past with them. On the more technical side, we are proposing that those technical discussions would be addressed on a case-by-case based on the technical task force approach.
Okay. Thank you.
And I've been working closely with the Sandag team and my role as chair to ensure that the environmental justice component and some of the other components of the regional plan are also included as we're moving forward with each one of these different committees in terms of the discussions that we're going to be having and what we bring forth to the Transportation Committee specifically. So if anybody has any requests or needs, feel free to do that. Member comments? Go ahead. Ms. Herder?
Yeah, I have a question. I just wanted to know if you're going from 23 working groups down to, I think I counted 11. So can you give us a list of which ones are being eliminated so we know which ones are, or if they're being eliminated or which one they're wrapping into where? You know, that would be helpful to know, you know, because there were 23 before and now they're just the 11 are listed there, but you didn't give us a list anywhere of what the other working groups were. And so, and what I understand is that we have to go back to our council and bring another person from each city into this these new working groups. Is that, would that be new, 2 new people from our cities to these working groups? Is that correct?
Yes, great question.
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Mr. Estrella.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we could definitely provide that list, but it's not that we are eliminating, but maybe some of the discussion topics from the previous working groups are now being addressed on a project specific level. So some of them might still remain, but they're more task force just to conclude the work. For example, one of the working groups under the mobility work or within the context of mobility work was our freight transportation. We had a working group. That project is concluding. So if there's any remaining items to be discussed, it'll just be at the task force level for specific items. But we could definitely provide that list.
Yeah, that would be helpful. And then also, is that, so I understand, do I need to go, you know, does my city need to then appoint 2 new people to these 2 new committees?
At this point, the way we're processing to maintain consistency with these new 2 working groups is we'll be asking city managers to appoint a primary member and an alternate member at the city manager level.
So they don't need to be council members then? They can be, and they can be employees, just some staff?
Yes, these are all staff employees or working group members, correct?
Technical experts, I think that's why they're asking for staff members.
Oh, because that, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And when just reading that, it didn't make that clear, but okay, okay.
It's a great question. If there's any other questions or comments? All right, that was an informational item, so we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 7. It's the North Coast Corridor Program. We're going to get a status update from Alan Cassip.
Good morning, Transportation Committee, and thank you. I'm Alan Cossip, the Corridor Director for the North Coast Corridor, and bring up our first slide. In 2016, we began construction on an $870 million regional transportation improvement, multimodal. Sort of a very fresh approach to building transportation in an integrated manner. And we've been providing quarterly updates. In the first 6 months of this calendar year, we've got some major milestones coming up and have achieved already in a couple of areas: Hov openings, some lagoon restoration completion, and active transportation. So I wanted to focus today's presentation on those. Next slide. Starting with some great news, on February 15th, we opened 9 new miles of Hov carpool lanes, basically from Solana Beach, Loma Santa Fe, all the way up to Palomar Airport Road in Carlsbad. We opened the northbound lanes. And then actually next Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, Wednesday the 23rd, we'll be opening the southbound lanes in the opposite direction. So major accomplishment there. For the first few weeks, we've seen upwards of a 5-minute time savings over those 9 miles in the afternoon commute. So a good success there. Next slide. And just to put that in context with the total project, the $870 million project, the blue is the northbound lanes that we opened up in February. The orange is the last segment of carpool lanes that broke ground last year in 2021 and hope to complete and open those by the beginning of 2023. So that's the last 4-mile section. And then previously in the late 18-19, we completed the double track and some active transportation improvements. And these improvements join, next slide, extend the carpool lanes that the region already had in place from 52 to Solana Beach, and those were 12 miles. So we added 9 miles to that 12-mile system. We now have 21 miles of carpool lanes. And also on this slide, we'll talk a little bit later in the presentation about a new project we added to the portfolio. We broke ground on a new lagoon restoration at Sandag by the fairgrounds. Next slide. So last time I was here in early fall of 2021, we showed this slide. This is at Manchester. This is the San Elejo Lagoon. And you could see that, we had removed most of the false work that was holding up the new bridges at I-5. The bridges were complete, but we still had the fill in the lagoon, and we were still sort of controlling the eastern basin tidal flushing. That's what it looked like in fall of 21. This is what it looked like. Next slide. Just a couple months later, we've been successful in moving most of the sand fill under the lagoon, under the bridge, and remove that. Just for context, the original bridge that was there was less than half of that length. So that lagoon would have been choked down to, probably less than 100 feet. Next slide. So the good news is also, not only did we open that lagoon, but the material that we were using is beach sand material, beach sand quality material. And so the way we were removing it was with this dredge. And next slide. And that sand is being moved to Cardiff State Beach, as well as Moonlight Beach in Encinitas. So it's part of our beach nourishment program. If you remember, in 2017-18, we did phase 1 of that nourishment, and now we're in phase 2. The beach sand replenishment for the project will be done in May of this year, 2022. Next slide. So I did want to spend a little bit of time on the active transportation improvements that are coming online. We've got a major event being planned for early June of this year, and that'll be opening many of the active transportation improvements that we've been building on the North Coast Corridor. And before we get into the specifics, I just wanted to provide just a little bit of background about how we originally planned the improvements. And if you remember, all of the North Coast Corridor, both the rail, the highway, and the active transportation, was planned for the entire 27 miles at one time. And when we looked at the active transportation, we really sort of saw 3 goals that we really wanted to improve. One was to provide a new north-south facility, the length of the corridor, which we call the North County Bike Trail, North Coast Bike Trail. Second is we identified that the rail and the highway really acted as an east-west barrier for people moving east-west from the communities to the beach areas. And so we wanted to improve those. And then third, we wanted some better connections to major destinations. And as an example, one of those projects we've already completed was linking the Sorrento Valley Transit Station, rail station, to UCSD and the medical centers there. So that's been complete. So as we work in the corridor, we're trying to find ways to integrate all of these improvements into either the rail or the highway projects. These are really once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, to build these projects, build these improvements. Next slide. So as we jump into this middle segment, the Build NCC piece between Solana Beach and Carlsbad, what were the active transportation improvements we were building in phase 1? If you remember, this is what it looked like in 2016. Again, this is Manchester, San Elejo Lagoon. And from an active transportation challenge, it was difficult to move from Solana Beach to Encinitas, sort of north-south. We had no connections there. And then again, the east-west movement was restricted to just a couple of locations, and they did not have facilities for active transportation. So with the project, next slide. Oh, one last slide. This is what it looked like when we broke ground. So this is what it looked like under the I-5 bridge. Obviously not optimal, and certainly not encouraging for more access. Next slide. So the project undertaking included 5 miles in the blue of Class 1, Class 2 new facilities, as well as the orange, which is Class 3 linking Encinitas to Carlsbad. So I wanted to focus today basically on the blue, because one of the challenges with the project, right, we've been under construction since 2016, and elements of the system have come in online sort of bit by bit, and it's sort of hard to see, how they fit in an overall network, and that they were planned to be integrated. So I wanted to sort of take you on a virtual tour of what you'll see when you come out to the ribbon cutting in early June. Next slide. And so the orange really is the new system. So we've got this connection from Solana Beach to Encinitas, and we've also got this element, this new north-south element, again, the North County Bike Trail. And we've got some new east-west connectivity. And we're also linking destinations such as the visitor center for San Elejo Lagoon with the greater community. The first place I wanted to take you was slide 1. Next slide. Location 1. Next slide. Perfect. This is where the person was in the red jumpsuit a few slides earlier. This is what it looks like now. And Not only does this provide, again, that east-west connectivity, but as importantly, it provides access to a new hanging bridge that's being constructed underneath I-5. Next slide. Next slide. And this is what it looks like as you drive by these things. It's kind of hard to see and figure out how it really works. But you know, when you come out in June, I think this will be a major centerpiece of the event. And this is a hanging bridge that we constructed underneath the new I-5 bridge, and it gets you across the lagoon, and it will provide now the linkage between Solana Beach and Encinitas. Next slide. Moving just up the road a little bit to the west, as I said, we've got this new loop that connects ultimately a new park and ride to the west of, or to the east of Manchester with the visitor center to Birmingham and up to the Encinitas Park, community park. So a couple locations will take you on the tour. Next slide. One of the things we're proud about is that you know, working in partnership with the other agencies in this area to make it work, right, and to leverage each other's efforts. And at the same time we were building our project, the San Elejo JPA water campus was being constructed. And we worked together to get a new Class 1 facility through their property. And that's providing the linkage between Manchester and Birmingham. And this is what it looks like when you go out there today. Next slide. Along Manchester, we are putting in a DG path. Next slide. And this is what it will look like in just a couple months. And this is the connectivity that will link the park and ride on the east side of I-5 to the visitor center on the west side of I-5, if you're familiar with that area. Next slide. And then we'll kind of go into the lagoon. As part of the lagoon restoration, there were a couple of pedestrian bridges built. Next slide. Here's one of them. And these bridges really provide two functionalities. One is they provide access to the natural resource and allow people to view the restoration in the lagoon. But they also provide connectivity over to Coast Highway. And again, that was always a difficult connection. So next slide. Let's next slide. And this slide is where those folks on the bridge were headed. So above this tunnel is LOSAN coaster rail. And before, this was one of those east-west barriers I was mentioning. This tunnel wasn't there. And while we were doing the dual track, the double tracking project, you know, we made the decision to, this was our opportunity to drop a box in here and build a new tunnel that provided that connectivity. And so this shows you the results of that. Next slide. And then we also constructed a new Class 1 bike path that sort of links that area that I just kind of took you from all the way to the southern end of Encinitas near Santa Fe. Next slide. And then two examples of how we improved east-west connectivity. These were at you know, local interchanges. This one's at Santa Fe. And this was the existing condition in 2016. We had these barriers up there to protect pedestrians, and you had a school that's just to the east behind me, behind my back, and then you had you know, destinations on the west side of the bridge, and so you had a lot of traffic moving back and forth, and this is how we used to protect them. Next slide. And this is what it looks like today. We pushed those, you know, that fill slope back, and now we've got a new facility behind those columns. So we've got 3 locations in total in the corridor that basically took this approach. And I just want to highlight, you know, these, when we talk about complete corridors in the RTP, you know, these are the type of projects we're talking about, you know, kind of getting in, getting out, and integrating all of these improvements. Next slide. So just in summary, when we look at the construction project that's out there, we are kind of in the home stretch. We've got three of the contracts already complete. And then we've got a fourth contract that will actually complete the end of next month. That's the one at Manchester. We've got some remaining sound wall work, landscaping work, some operational improvements, technology packages coming online in the remainder of this year and then 23. And so by 24, we'll be out complete in the corridor. But we made a big push to get the carpool lanes open first while we would work on some of the outside efforts. Next slide. And I did sort of tease early on in the presentation that we've got this new project that's under construction, and we refer to as the Sandag Lagoon wetland restoration. This is a Sandag project. These are all Sandag projects, but this was funded by the Transnet EMP program, and it is restoring more than 80 acres of wetlands to the east of I-5. And if you drive out there now, you see a lot of orange fencing. You're probably wondering what's going on. And over the years, the lagoon had been filled in with fill in order to farm it. And this project removes that fill and restores it to a lagoon, to much like what you see at San Elejo. So this will really be a transformational project. What's out there now is kind of brown weeds, and what will be out there in just a couple of years will be salt marsh. So very proud about the partnership of getting that under construction. And next slide, I think that's all for today. Oh, and just upcoming milestones, just to kind of summarize where we've been, where we're going. As I said, next week, night of the 22nd, Tuesday the 22nd, morning of the 23rd, we will be opening the southbound carpool lanes from Palomar Airport to Loma Santa Fe. The East Basin at San Elejo Lagoon will be totally open to tidal flushing by April of 22, just a couple months. And we'll complete the beach sand replenishment in May. And then we have the community celebration for the new bike and pedestrian network that I took you through. That's coming probably June 4th is our target date for that 2022. So with that, any questions?
Thank you. Are there any public comments?
Thank you, Chair. We do have one public comment. Nicole Burgess, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, Supervisor Nora Vargas, and thank you, Alan Cossett, for the updates. It's very, very exciting to see all the active transportation, 80 acres of wetlands. That's awesome. Shout out to San Diego. Let's do the wildest rewild at Mission Bay and do some of this amazing green infrastructure, bridges, tunnels, beautiful. And then just Supervisor Vargas, this is Troyes Creek alignment, these beautiful bridges. And there are tunnels that we're going to need to make because we've had this. So this complete corridor down 15 and the 94 is what I'm calling out. And having those bridges to the Bayshore Bikeway and for all these communities to access our beautiful asset in San Diego. So let's bring all this great work, and we can save millions of dollars by not expanding the freeway. And we got to think of inducing active transportation. And I love to get all of you out there. So please let me know when you are ready to ride. Have a fabulous day, and thank you for letting me make my comments.
That concludes the public commenters.
Thank you. We have member comments. Councilmember Azia.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to pipe in and acknowledge all of these active transportation improvements that have been done by Caltrans. They've been fabulous. They're very well used. The pedestrian bridges and the undercrossings in the lagoon probably get hundreds of people per day accessing those. I will actually be able to use that myself. Being able to go to the San Elejo JPA board meetings and just walking through the lagoon will be wonderful just to get to that board. As being a board member on the San Elejo JPA, the collaboration with Caltrans to get that bike path done and the interchange improvements is great. because when we built the water campus, in order to further, our public contributions, we put a whole bunch of public parking spaces in front of the campus, over 30 parking spaces for people that could access the lagoon, and working with Caltrans to get a good controlled intersection there so that people could park and then cross the street to the nature center, and access to the lagoon has been great. And so really appreciate the collaboration, and these types of improvements are well used and going to greatly increase just the amenabilities and walkability and bikeability of our neighborhood. I did want to, and I'm sure Ellen is aware this is coming though, to understand one thing you didn't show in your, Ellen, was the schedule around the park and ride at Manchester, and I'm not quite sure what milestone that's attached to. Because the lagoon improvements have been so tremendous, it has attracted more people, and having weekend parking for that lagoon, even expanding beyond what we've been able to do at the San Elejo JPA, will be useful. And I'm just not quite sure what that park and ride completion is tied to.
So the controlling item on the park and ride has really been utility relocation. And so we're targeting the end of this year to be open to the public. We're working with SDG&E. The new park and ride will have a number of EV charging stations, and so we don't have that level of power over there. So we are working with SDG&E. But
Okay.
end of the year.
Okay, thank you, Alan. I'll be continuing to check in with you on that, but it is a key milestone for us and important. But thanks again. Collaboration has been great, and these improvements are amazing. Thank you, Chair.
Mayor Hall?
Yes, and again, Alan, your presentation was just unbelievable, and what we've been able to do in and around San Elejo. I mean, in North County, we haven't seen something like this since probably the restoration of the Bataquitas Lagoon. And so I can't say how much job well done. One of the thoughts or concerns I have is having 3 lagoons in the city of Carlsbad. It's always a challenge, if not an issue, how we maintain those lagoons and the periodic dredging of those lagoons, and making sure that it's done to the right capacity, meaning that you have to move X amount of yards and to keep the life of the lagoon moving forward. So who's going to maintain San Elejo and the dredging?
So one of the great things about the regional EMP program that Sandag established as part of Transnet is an endowment for dredging and maintenance of the lagoons. And so that was established sort of day one of this whole corridors. And so those funds are currently used for like Bataquitas. They'll be used at San Dieguito, and as well as San Elejo. But also, we've designed them in such a way that hopefully we reduce the amount of sediment, because we're trying to get the speed up through there. So hopefully it's not as bad as it was historically, or not as frequent, I should say, as it was historically.
And just as an observation, Alan, the Bataquitas Lagoon has never been, when they've done the maintenance on that lagoon, never once have they moved the amount of material that it was designed to be moved. So consequently, it accelerates the east ends of the lagoon and how quick they silt in. So and part of it is in the detail. Permits are never acquired on the due date, which means the window of time to pump is always shortened. And so this is just from experience, and I've watched it in Bataquitas, I've watched it in Agua Hedionda, I've even watched it in the Oceanside Harbor. Also, the equipment that is chosen to move the material. This is a much more complicated process than I ever realized. And so I would just hope that we stay in front of that, and perhaps someday we could have one body have all being able to get all the permits in an extreme timely manner, so the process works on how it was designed to work. So again, job well done, Alan.
Thank you.
Councilmember Saki?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. San Diego is notorious for not being able to do big things very well, and I think this project and the addition to the blue line, that the trolley recently, are two shining examples, frankly, of cooperation between construction companies, Sandag, funding sources, all those things that have to come together to make a project work. And Alan, your presentation this morning renews my faith, and I think in a lot of ways, and especially moving forward with our goals so bold in transportation as we look at the next several decades. This project is a wonderful example, and I guess, you know, as electeds, we sit on these boards and commissions and we approve these things, but it's people like you, Alan, and your team, and all the folks that at the contractor level that really make this thing happen. And I just think it's important to take a second and salute you and all the hardworking staff members. The previous item talked about a couple new working groups, and I'm thrilled that it's going to be staff people, because that's really where the nuts and bolts get turned, and on all these projects. And I think you know, taking a second to salute staff and their efforts on this is something I'm glad I have the opportunity to do. So thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, we're going to go ahead and do the next item, which is item number 8, the Metropolitan Transit System for Hire Vehicle Administration and Implementation, AB 302. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Samantha Leslie and Mr. Leonardo Fell.
Good morning, Chair Vargas and committee members. My name is Samantha Leslie, MTS Deputy General Counsel. I also have here with me Mr. Fewell, and he is the For-Hire Vehicle Administration Manager. And together we will be presenting on the For-Hire Vehicle Administration and AB 302. Our presentation will first go over what our department does, our roles and responsibilities. We'll talk about the industry we regulate, and lastly, AB 302. AB 302 now allows MTS to enter into agreements with cities that are outside of MTS's service area to conduct for-hire vehicle regulation for their jurisdiction. Our goal with this presentation is to advertise the available opportunity this can provide to cities, as well as share some of the benefits that may be realized by entering into an MOU for for-hire vehicle regulation with MTS. And with that, I'll transfer it over to Mr. Fewell.
Thank you, Samantha. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, committee members. My name is Leonardo Fewell, For-Hire Vehicle Administration Manager. And I will go over some of the key functions of For-Hire Vehicle Administration to begin with the presentation. Next slide, please. Some of the key functions of For-Hire Vehicle Administration are the types of vehicles that we regulate. They include taxis, non-emergency medical, we refer to them as not NEMs, and charter vehicles. Charter vehicles are regular sedans that are utilized for the purpose of non-emergency medical transportation, jitneys, and low-speed vehicles. For-Hire Vehicle Administration is staffed by a 5-person team. Myself, responsible for the oversight of the department, 1 regulatory analyst who's responsible for the permitting functions, and 3 regulatory inspectors that are responsible for the field enforcement. The inspectors are public officers under Penal Code 836, and they make certain that all the vehicles are operating within the guidelines of Ordinance 11. Our staff conducts certain vehicle inspections that are located at our Imperial Avenue Division in the bus maintenance facility in downtown. Next slide, please. The column to the left depicts the cities in which we already have a memorandum of understanding for hire vehicle regulations. There are 9 cities, and the column on the right are the cities that are not currently under contract with us that might be under AB 302 if they accept to come into a contract with MTS for hire vehicle regulation. Next slide, please. Our primary responsibilities, number 1, include ensuring the public safety by conducting criminal background checks on all applicants and current permit holders. We also require vehicle inspections to be performed at a state-certified mechanic facility to ensure that the vehicles are in a good state of repair. We also require insurance to be maintained in full force during the validity of the permit, and we require the vehicles to be maintained and operated safely. We also provide driver safety training for the operators of those vehicles, and as I mentioned in the previous slide, our regulatory field inspectors ensure the monitoring of those vehicles while in the field. Our second goal is to prevent unfair consumer practices. That no company should charge more than the meter maximum rate in case of the taxi cabs is applicable. Drivers must provide also receipts for those trips upon request, and for hire vehicle administration also investigates passenger complaints. Next slide, please. We partner with the County San Diego Sheriff's Department, and they have an important role in a responsibility in the for-hire vehicle industry. Both of us play an important role, but the sheriff is responsible for issuing for-hire vehicle driver IDs for the driver of each of the vehicles that we permit. They also require the drivers to submit to a drug and alcohol testing, and they also conduct criminal background checks for those drivers. It's important to note that the sheriff issues the driver ID cards for the entire San Diego County, not only for the cities that MTS has a current MOU with. Next slide, please. Our budget, by statute, we must operate under 100% full cost recovery. What this means is that our main funding source is the regulatory fee, which is an annual fee that's paid by each vehicle. The regulatory fee is determined every year based on the number of permits that we regulate. And for this current year, for 2022, for taxi cabs, low-speed vehicles, and jitneys, the regulatory fee is $350, and for non-emergency medical and charters is $440. Next slide, please. These are the current permits that are outstanding with for-hire vehicle administration. They include the ones that are operating, and some of them that are currently not operating because of issues of economic recovery having to do with COVID or other issues. But on the right-hand column, you will see the total number of vehicles that are operating on the streets as we speak. So the vast majority of them are currently operating, and a small percentage of them remain out of service, but we expect most of them to come back as the economic recovery comes in. Next slide, please. And on these slides, I'll cover some characteristics of the types of vehicles that we regulate, as well as why are they important in some of the areas of concerns. For taxi cabs, their fare is determined by a taximeter, and the taximeter determines the fare by a combination of time and distance. As part of our functions, for hire vehicle administration calculates a maximum rate of fare based on the consumer price index formula, and we make that calculation every year. We recently did it last month, and taxi cabs are allowed to charge up to the maximum rate of fare. They are allowed also to take street hails or prearranged trips. And as I mentioned a couple of slides ago, MTS regulated taxi cabs can pick up in any of the cities that were listed in that slide, and with the cities that we currently have an MOU with. They can also make limited prearranged pickups in the rest of San Diego County if those trips are prearranged. One key characteristic of our taxi cabs is that they all must meet California Air Resources Board criteria to be low emissions. So the industry is, we can say that they're very eco-friendly, and that is part of the permitted requirement. Next slide, please. They are important because they are available for the unbanked or for those passengers without a smartphone. It's also important to note that based on their compensation method, which is the taximeter, taxi cabs do not apply surcharging as TNCs would. We do have some areas of concern. They are high operating costs for the taxi cabs, and the highest cost that we've identified is the high insurance premium for them. Also increased competition by the TNCs such as Uber and Lyft. And the TNCs are regulated at the state level, so there is a little bit of a disparity there when it comes to regulations between TNCs and taxi cabs. However, there is concern that due to growing concerns from subscription fees, next slide, please. It is important to note that we are currently exploring strategies to incentivize the introduction of wheelchair accessible vehicles, taxi cab wheelchair accessible vehicles. As Mr. Prem mentioned at a previous agenda item, there are currently 3 wheelchair accessible vehicle taxi cabs in San Diego. We identified that there were some issues with the strategies to incentivize some of the permit holders to incorporate such vehicles, but we are currently in the process of conducting peer reviews, surveys, to identify a better process and incentivize the introduction of these wheelchair accessible vehicles. It is important because we want to provide the city of San Diego and the region with additional transportation options for individuals with disabilities or limited mobility. The concern is that there are a limited number of taxi cabs in operation, but we are exploring those strategies, and we should come with recommendations later this year on methods to incentivize the introduction of these vehicles. Next slide, please. For non-emergency medical and charter vehicles, unlike taxi cabs, their rates are based on a per capita or per mile basis. They transport patients to hospitals, clinics, or other non-emergency medical appointments, and they are wheelchair accessible vehicles. These type of vehicles must be equipped with a wheelchair lift or ramp, unlike the charters, which do not have to have a wheelchair accessible equipment, but they are engaged mainly in the transportation of passengers for non-emergency medical trips. It is important because the majority of these non-emergency medical vehicles and their companies are reimbursed by Medi-Cal and private health plans. We do have concerns because, very much like taxi cabs, they have to pay high insurance premiums, and they're facing increased competition from TNCs that are gaining more market in the non-emergency medical sector. It should be noted that this type of transportation is increasing, as also the need for patients to make it to those appointments. So this is a growing sector of the industry. Next slide, please. For low-speed vehicles, some of you might be familiar with them. You've seen them operating mainly in downtown San Diego and in the border areas. They're currently operating in the city of San Diego. They were authorized to operate in National City, and there are future plans for them to increase the frequency of service in National City. And recently, we were notified that there's an intention for low-speed vehicles to begin operations in the city of Chula Vista. This is important because this mode of transportation is very popular for short trips, especially in the evening times for entertainment, around entertainment venues and restaurants. But there is a concern because we've experienced recently a drop in tourism and the closure of some entertainments and restaurant venues in the downtown area. And the next slide, which is also the last type of vehicle that we'll regulate. Next slide, please. And they are the jeepneys, and they're a sort of micro-mobility option. They charge a flat fare, and they generally operate in the city of San Isidro and the Otay Mesa border areas. There are future plans for operation in Pacific Beach. And this type of service supplements our fixed route service. It's very convenient, and MTS works along with the applicants to devise optimal routes and provide additional service to those passengers that otherwise wouldn't be able to get it through our fixed route services. This is important because of that precise reason, but the concern is that there was a drop of border business in the border area, and they also have to pay high insurance premiums due to the size and the type of service that they provide. Next slide, please. For Hire Vehicle Administration, it is constantly exploring efforts to assist the for-hire vehicle industry. We are very proactive in doing so. We recently reduced regulatory requirements so long as public safety and fair consumer practices are still met. We aim for consistency with other regulatory requirements from other peer agencies in the state and throughout the United States. So we're very proactive in ensuring industry standards. We partner with other agencies in organizations on key industry issues, and we work with the industry through the Taxi Cab Advisory Committee and the Non-Emergency Medical Ad Hoc Working Group. And it should be noted that our Taxi Cab Advisory Committee is chaired by our San Diego City Council President, Sean Elo Rivera. When possible, we would we provide the industry with an educational experience instead of penalizing drivers or any other companies for not complying with our ordinance. We aim to ensure compliance and to make sure that everybody's playing by the rules. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll pass it on to Samantha. She'll talk more about AB 302.
Thank you. So prior to AB 302 and MTS's enabling legislation, it stated that MTS can enter into an agreement with any city or the county that was within MTS's service area, which is generally the southernmost region of the county. The County of San Diego's unincorporated area, however, is both within MTS's service area and just outside of it. And they showed an interest about looking into transferring over the function of for-hire vehicle regulation to MTS. So this is an area we noted that may need revision. After speaking with North County Transit District and confirming they didn't have an intent or interest in conducting for-hire vehicle regulation in the North County area, we worked with Assemblymember Chris Ward in sponsoring AB 302, and it became effective January 1st of 2022. And it now expressly allows MTS to enter into agreements with any city or the county that is located within the entire San Diego County region to conduct for-hire vehicle regulation if that jurisdiction so chooses. Next slide. MRUs are completely optional. Each city or the county can decide how they best want to conduct for-hire vehicle regulation, whether that may be within their business licensing department or police department, or decide to transfer to an entity like MTS. It is completely the choice of each city or the county. That being said, of the 9 cities we currently have an agreement with, the majority of those cities have been under agreement with us since the 90s, and when these MOUs come up for expiration, they're being renewed. And we believe it's because of the many benefits that cities realize from an agreement with us. For instance, because we are required by law to be 100% cost recovery, all our costs and expenses are paid by the industry that we regulate through permit holder fees, meaning there is no direct cost from the city or the county to MTS to conduct this function. In addition, it reduces and saves city staff time and resources that were previously tasked with this function and transfers it over to MTS. There's also benefits to our permit holders. The more cities we enter into agreements with, the more vehicles we regulate, the more fees we receive, which can then offset our costs and expenses. And when we develop budgets each year, we can decide, is there a way that we can share these savings with our permit holders to maintain permit fees where there are and or potentially reduce it in the future. And that is why the permit holders we regulate were in support of the AB 302 when this was adopted. Next slide. And of course, the main goal and main benefit is public safety. You know, as a passenger enters into one of these vehicles, they might have an expectation that there has been some oversight on that trip, that someone has checked to ensure the driver has had a background check, that someone has ensured that the vehicle is in a good state of working order, that there has been someone that's checked that the insurance policy is valid in case of an accident. Our regulation, responsibility, and duties help increase the likelihood that we're meeting that passenger expectation of safety, that the trip is being operated in a safe manner, it's meeting industry safety standards, and through our in-field inspection, reducing the likelihood that there's unregulated or wildcat trips going on, which increases passenger safety and increases safety for the public. There has been a comment we have heard that there's a concern for a for-hire vehicle business that that operates in a city that we don't currently regulate with, that they might see increased fees if MTS begins regulating in that area. And that is a valid concern, but for the benefits I've just discussed and for the potential that they can actually now expand their business and work not only in their city they were previously working with, but of the 9 that we currently have an agreement with, it can expand their business, grow their business, and that could be a big benefit for them. Next slide. Next slide. And we want to share as next steps these benefits of an MOU with MTS with the city. So we're going to look to find the appropriate staff member or department in the North County cities to see if they would like to set up a meeting and discuss this area further. We highly encourage the cities that are part of this committee to contact us if they would like more briefings or have any questions about this area. And we look forward to working with cities in the North Counties in the future. And if there's any questions, Mr. Field or I can answer those. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item?
Thank you, Chair. We do have one member of the public with their hand up. Catherine Rhodes, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Very informative. I just have quite a few questions, the same kind of questions. Is maybe if you could give an overview of what the fares are by type. No, you mentioned you just changed the maximum fare that can be charged by taxi cabs, but what was the previous rate and what's the current rate now? I don't know. What's the per mile rates? And then you also said that where jitneys are allowed, they have a flat fare rate. What is that flat fare rate? Thank you so much.
Sure, that concludes the public commenters. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for that question. Are there any other member comments? Public comments. Are any member comments?
Madam Chair, this is Bill Sankey.
Yes, sir.
Our city was faced with quite a bit of public comment from our existing taxi company, or I guess there's two of them, when the bill that was introduced was a mandatory program that MTS was going to administer, and I'm pleased that it's an opt-in. Our providers had significant concerns about being overly regulated, and they were in a situation where they were already expressing to us a behind the power curve position related to Uber and other transportation services that the city has no participation in. And so I'm probably hesitant to speak on behalf of my city, like as an individual or as one member of the council, but I think there would still be those same concerns if we as a city decided to move forward. I think it's a wonderful program for the folks that are participating in it, and I would imagine that the feedback you're getting from them is reasonably positive. But I think for a smaller city that operates the kind of the way we do, I'm not sure this program is going to be as good a fit as it might be for a larger city with larger fleets of vehicles. We are at the same time exploring a limited mobility or limited speed item, a sort of a FRED light shuttle, as part of our climate action plan. And our partnership with MTS for existing services, including the summer shuttle, is extremely positive. So just with those comments, not necessarily a question, really don't need an answer to it, but just sharing, particularly for the other cities that are maybe considering this. Those were some of the concerns that we were pressed with and probably would continue to be pressed with should we decide to move forward with MTS on this program. Thank you. And that concludes my comments.
Are there any other member comments on this item? All right, so I am actually very supportive of the implementation, especially to support the taxi industry in our region. By San Diego County joining this contract with MTS, I think we're reducing barriers for our taxi for hire vehicle industry. And so I want to thank MTS for providing this presentation and very, very thorough presentation. So we appreciate that. With that, seeing no other comments, this was an informational item. Our next Transportation Committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, April 1st at 9 a.m. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, members, for your full participation, and thank you for the members of the public, and thank you to the Sandag team for all your great work.
Take care, everybody. Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.